Hi everyone, it's Tony Tonkin here from the Child Protection Party. It's great that you could be with us, and I hope that you are with us to discuss all things around child protection and what is happening in your world, so that we can have a conversation about things that matter to you. Now, the purpose of these live feeds every couple of days is to give you an opportunity to have a conversation with us about things that matter to you. So please get involved, join with us, have a conversation, and see whether or not we are able to not only answer your questions, but also for you to talk about the things that really do concern you, and perhaps those people that also get involved in the feed can also have a conversation with you as well, which generally does tend to happen. So welcome, and also I'd just like to also welcome at this particular point, like to welcome my friend and my buddy, Avery Hilditch. How are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Yeah, you've been travelling okay? Even though no, well, that's not true, is it? Actually,
Cold day yesterday, so I was pretty much immobile because of lower back pain. But other than that, I'm fine.
But things are better today.
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Look, one of the things that I thought that we could talk about today are some of the things that we've got planned, probably for Thursday. Just wondering if you want to have a conversation just about our Facebook live feed on Thursday and what that would look like and how people can get involved in that.
Well, the Facebook, the live feed that we're doing on Thursday will be fed through YouTube and through Facebook, but we'll also be using a product called Zoom. Now, Zoom is an application that will allow anybody that's listening to or that joins the live feed to actually appear on screen with us and talk about an issue that concerns them. The one thing we don't want them to do is talk about their personal issue with the child protection departments, because that I think needs to be kept private, and there's legal reasons I think why we shouldn't be talking about that sort of thing. But basically anybody will be able to join in, a maximum of 100 people. It would be nice to get that many, but what we'll be doing on Thursday, just a few minutes prior to the start of the live feed, is I'll be posting up a link, and all you've got to do is click on that link, and that'll take you into Zoom. I've set the thing so that it'll turn off your. Normally it turns on your camera, but I've set it so it'll turn it off. So if you don't want your face appearing on the screen, it won't appear. I've left it. It will turn your microphone on, and you can you can join via a PC, a laptop, desktop PC, a laptop, a phone, a tablet, any of those. Just click that link and you're in.
And Avery, I do need to say that we've got no idea how this has got to turn out because we've never done done a live feed using Zoom. We believe we have the technology to be able to do that, but there is no guarantees that it's going to actually kind of work. So we're prepared to give it a try, but it is, look, like all the things we do, Aves, it's about us being able to try something a little bit different, try to engage with you so that you can have a conversation about the things that matter to you, and so that you can have a conversation on Zoom to other people, I guess, also, face-to-face or through audio as well. So we are encouraging people to do the face-to-face stuff if they've got access to a camera, if they choose to, but if they choose not to, that's fine as well, isn't it?
Yeah, the option will be there for you to turn the video on if you want it, and if you don't, then there'll just be a black area on the screen that will have your telephone number on.
And Stacey's asked what time, and that's 2:00, isn't it?
Yeah, 2 p.m. on Thursday.
South Australian time.
South Australian time. If you check the events page on Facebook, on the CPP Facebook page, you'll see the event in there, date and time. Australian Central Standard Time it is. The whole idea, we've got to thank Clinton de Young for that, because he did one of these at the weekend
from WA.
And it worked exceptionally well. It was he wasn't going via YouTube Facebook and through Facebook. He just went straight to Facebook using Zoom, and it worked extremely well.
It did. And so, yeah, thanks, Clinton, our new, well, it's not all that new now, I guess, but our young-ish team leader in WA, who's doing a fabulous job trying to engage with people. And part of that conversation with which he had is something we want to carry over here as well.
Yeah.
He had the number of people on. There were a few people who were Indigenous, Avery, and they talked about the issues that they had around children being removed because they were first Australians, and we want to ensure that they have a voice. And as we said to Clinton, which developed this further idea, was that we weren't in the business of providing a policy for Indigenous people because we as white people have done enough damage. So what we decided to do was to invite Clinton to develop or to manage a group of Indigenous people so that they can talk about what they consider is important in terms of Indigenous child protection. So so what we're doing, Avery, is we would like to see if there's anybody that has got an Indigenous background and who would like to become a part of that committee that we've set up for Clinton, let us know.
Yeah. One thing I would say is Clinton's not going to manage them. He's going to host them.
Host them. That's right.
Yeah.
So he just
managing sounds like he's going to be telling them what to do, and that's
no, he's not
what we want.
No, good point. No, he will be. I don't know what the word. Yeah, I guess hosting is probably the best thing.
Yeah.
So is about listening to what other people have to say.
Yeah.
And them, whoever else is involved in that, they're the ones that make the decisions. Certainly not Clinton, but he's the central point for that. Stacey won't be able to make it. Sorry, Stacey. I just don't. So I'm sorry, we're not changing the time for you, Stacey. As important as you are, I can assure you. What other developments have we got, Avery? What's been on the boil? We've got adoption was the other thing.
The thing about Clinton doing the team, creating a team to talk to discuss and possibly develop an Aboriginal policy. Mm-hmm. I've been busy on another task which I'm not prepared to talk about just yet. It's to do with the party. I'm not going to speak about it in public.
Oh, we have to wait till we've made a final decision about that. So.
Yeah, that'll possibly intrigue a few people, and no doubt I might get some questions. What is it you're talking about? What are you doing? But I can't talk about it right now. I'll be glad when I can. It's one of those things that I want to talk about it because it's an exciting prospect. But fortunately, having worked for 50 years in defence, I'm used to keeping secrets. So
yeah, I know. And if we let this secret out, we'd have to kill people.
We would, yeah.
We just can't have any of that. So okay, so. The other thing was adoptions. So we had a conversation. Where was that conversation? Was that a Facebook
adoption? That started out when I shared that policy, and it caused a real crap storm of responses. And then we spoke about it on Tuesday of last week with
Peter.
On the live feed.
That's right.
And Peter Moore joined us in that conversation for the live feed on. That we're doing on Thursday. If you look back at the one we did last Tuesday, you'll see what I meant about you appearing on the screen. That Peter lives in New South Wales, and we just sent him the link to join, and in he came. Anyway,
I shouldn't have flicked that over. But which reminds me that if anybody wants to join the conversation and they're at home, but under these conditions, they have to be at home with a computer and appropriate system, or otherwise it just isn't going to work, because we send them a link that connects through to the software that I use to do these productions, and we can get you on, just like we did with Peter on the spur of the moment. I think he rushed home, actually.
Yeah, he did.
To join
he was in his car heading home.
Yeah. So he got home, and then he connected up his computer, and then we were able to work out online how to put that together, and it worked out, I thought, quite well. So I guess that invitation sits with everybody.
Anyone that's watching right now can say, "Can I join in?" And you can do your bit and give them that link.
Yep.
Yeah. Talking about adoption, another thing that I did this week is that we've spoken with Wendy Hawkins, who's our policy director, and we've got 3 volunteers who are all adoptees. 3 people who are all adoptees, 2 of which have already agreed to join with Wendy to develop a modern adoption policy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it may be, I don't know, it may be that this is our policy. It may be that we're not going to have a policy. I don't know. That is entirely up to Wendy and that team. None of the team are members. I don't think any of them are members of the party. No, tell a lie. One is. 2 of them aren't.
But we don't. I guess the point is we don't make that a prerequisite to having a conversation about policy.
Certainly not. Yeah, certainly not. It's one of the reasons why we've got the comments feature on the policy pages, so people can go there and comment on a policy, not on Facebook. Yeah. We share them on Facebook, but I want them to click that link and go and read the policy and scroll down and tell us what they think about it.
Yeah.
What's right about it, what's wrong, etc. On this thing about adoption, there's one person I'm just waiting to hear from to see whether he will be willing to join in.
Okay, so I guess
he's a busy guy.
So I guess what we're saying is that we're at a point now, I guess, where we're revisiting a lot of our policies. We're having a look at, and we're inviting people to make comment, and not only to make comment, but to get involved in the policy decision process.
Yeah.
Because as a party, this is not about Avery, myself, or anybody else that's on our committee to devise policies specifically. We do want and need to hear from you. We're not like other political parties who have an executive who decide what the policy is and then launches it to everybody. And if we get too much conflict around a policy, we may choose not to have a policy. We might even choose to have variants of a policy that does fit with, I guess, the largest portion of the people that are advocating for that policy. But we're not about we're not authoritarian, I guess, Avery, in how we go about developing policies.
And the excuse me, the other thing there is that just as we don't want white people telling black people what they should be doing, right? We want the people that have issues with the child protection system to tell us what is wrong with the system, what they think is wrong with the system, and what changes they would like to see in it. That's why we need the feedback from all of you.
Yeah.
Look at our policies on the website, comment on the website itself, on the policy pages.
And Avery, we spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time, particularly, I guess, complaining about this system, which I believe doesn't fit with a lot of people. And I'll talk a little bit about this in a moment because I've had a hell of a week. But I guess it's about, we can complain about it as much as we like, and we can become as angry about it as we can get. But none of that necessarily changes what we all believe needs to change. What is going to implement and effectively bring about change will be us developing policies, getting people into Parliament, being able to implement those policies, talking to those people who make the decisions, influencing politicians so that they can place legislation forward that's going to bring about the change that we require. The other thing about, I think, having someone in Parliament is that they'll be able to ask questions in question time of the ministers and other people responsible for what happens to kids, and be able to put them under pressure, embarrass them, in fact, so that they do take note of what it is that we're saying and advocating for. Yeah. So we need, I guess I try and bring this point across enough times that this is not about you, me, or anybody else on our executive. This is about changing a system so that the voices of children and their parents get heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we need good policies to do that. We need candidates to do that. I mean, there's an election coming up in Queensland in October, and
the ACT.
and the ACT. I mean, Queensland probably less likely chance of us ever winning anything because they don't have an upper house. But certainly, if we had a candidate in a particular seat that was interesting enough to compete with, and we had the funds to be able to do it, I guess we could do it just to get our foot in the door and get some notoriety. And also, if the more noise we make, and the more candidates we have around Australia, the more we're going to be noticed, and the more people will be contacting us to ask our opinion about issues in relation to child protection and other issues that impact children.
Yeah,
it will be.
Yeah, with respect to Queensland, you're right. They don't have an upper house, which makes things a whole hell of a lot more difficult for us. They also don't allow you to say that I'm an independent for the Child Protection Party. I learned that this morning. So here in SA, somebody can say, if we weren't registered here in SA, we could have Tony Tonkin for the independent, Tony Tonkin independent for the Child Protection Party. If you were in Queensland, all we could say is Tony Tonkin independent. And
so you can't nominate the party for whom you might be independent because you haven't got. But that's another, and maybe this is another reason. God, we flogged this horse 100. This is why we need more members in those states.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Because we need the registration so that we have the recognition as a political party, so that we can put up. They work really hard to put up barriers so that independents can, or smaller minor parties anyway, can actually have a voice. God, is this, is this a democracy, or what sort of country are we living in where it's really difficult for people like us to be able to have the voice that we need when we're representing hundreds of thousands of people who are concerned about their kids?
Well, it's certainly not a real democracy because here in SA, for example, it used to be that to nominate to be a candidate, it cost something like $150, $200. Now it's $3,000 for the Legislative Council.
So you can't. So it's really difficult, isn't it, to be a sole voice when you have those sort of barriers placed before you?
Yeah, in the last state election, there was one independent. He was in my area, where he got nearly as many votes as we did. We got around 16,000, a tad over 16,000 votes, and he got something like 15,300 first preference votes. All of those people should, of course, have voted for us, but they didn't.
Well, I guess you just can't have it our way all the time. Otherwise,
we can't.
But I think that the point is we'll need to leave it at this, I guess. But the point is, if you're complaining about child protection, issues around kids, disabilities, the way they're being educated, mental well-being, suicide rate of young people, alcohol and drug use of young people, if you're concerned about any of those things and just complain about it all the time and not support what we're attempting to do, then you're kind of pissing in the wind, really, because there's not that much that that you can do alone. But together, as a force and as a political force, it's amazing what we'll be able to change. As a movement, we'll be able to change heaps. And it's not just about getting into Parliament. It's about, us having our town halls, us getting the message out there, and hopefully once the virus has settled down, maybe some, actual campaigns and, carrying banners and all that other sort of stuff that might be helpful, and standing on Parliament House and giving speeches and talking about the issues that concern all of us. So these are things that we could be doing, but if we go to Parliament House and stand there for half a day, we might have 20 people turn up.
Yeah.
Which makes us look silly.
And if you're going to stand outside Parliament, you've got to do it on a day when they're actually sitting, which means it's not going to happen for the next few months. Because I remember one that we went to when there was this guy kept turning around and saying, "Can you hear me, Mr. Rann?" or whoever it was that was the Premier at the time. And the building was empty. Of course he couldn't hear him. He was at home with his feet up enjoying the football. On the thing about having banners and stuff like that and getting posters to put out, one of the things that prevents us from doing that is how little money we've got, right? And in our bank account, and there's a couple of things that I think about there. One is that our membership fee is $12 a year. It only applies to new members, but any member can write to me, send me an email at avery.hilditch@childprotection.party and say, I'd like to pay that $12 a year.
Yep.
Right, and if every member that we've got, the 1,169 members at the moment, did that, $12, right, there's $13,000 in our bank account. We can now pay for a candidate to run. We can now pay for the advertising that we want to do and get the banners to go on a march and stuff like that.
So in other words, if the
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, if the commitment's $12, and that's a couple of cups of coffee, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's all you have to pay for a year, and that financially supports us to do many of the things that we want to do. Not about paying us, I need to add. It's about putting out banners and doing some advertising and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then why not do it?
Yeah. Anybody can send me. Anybody who's an existing member can send me that email saying, I'd like to pay my $12 to help you grow the party and advertise it and stuff like that. I will send them an invoice through PayPal, and they can pay it by credit card. They can I can send them. They can say, I want to pay it by credit card, or I want to pay it by check or a bank transfer, a money order. They can do it anyway. They can
pop $12 in an envelope and just post it to us, for God's sake.
Yeah.
They
can do it how they want.
Yeah.
We need to get $2 bills reintroduced, because then because the weight of the coins would suggest to people that that there was money in there. So,
well, we'll send us send us two $10 notes then.
Yeah,
in that case.
The other thing that I must admit gets my goat on the Facebook thing here is we've got 7,179 people like and follow the page, and we've got from South Australia, we've got about 450 members. From around the country, we've got 1,169 in total. 7,000 followers on Facebook. Why aren't those 7,000 followers joining the party?
Yep. And why is it that when we finish this feed today, we'll be lucky to have 2 or 3 shares?
Yeah.
That everybody who logs on, the first thing you should do is share the video feed.
Yeah.
Let's get it out to sometimes I'll confess this isn't one of our best efforts today, because we're talking about a lot of party stuff and it's not the emotional stuff. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Yep. But we for our how many reaches did we have for our virtual town hall? What was the
37,000?
Yeah, 37,000, because people shared it.
Yeah.
So this isn't about the Avery and Tony show. This is about kids and working so that we can have a system that is basically corrupt. A word I don't like to use often, but I was talking to my wife about it the other day, and she said, "Why don't you use the word corruption a little bit more often?" And I thought, well, she kind of said that. I thought, well, because corruption means that, I don't know. I just don't like the word.
If
you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
If you say they are corrupt, you have now adopted a burden of proof, right?
Yeah, I don't like to think anybody's corrupt. I guess I think that people don't realise that they're doing some shitty things and that they need to change what they're doing. I don't believe they're corruption seems to indicate that someone is deliberately rorting the system.
It does, and I would personally, I wouldn't think that the system is. I wouldn't think the people are corrupt, but you could put up an argument that the system is corrupt, and if people are just following what the system rules say that they've got to do.
Yeah, there'll be a whole stack of people now who log on saying, "Yes, the system's corrupt."
Yeah, they
what
are
you talking
corrupt.
about? What are you
Yeah,
talking
the thank
about?
you,
They lie all
Morella.
the.
Thank you, Morella. You've shared the stream. I wish everybody would do the same.
All right, didn't see
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it just popped up now. Yeah, as I said, if you say that that system is corrupt, that department is corrupt, you have got a burden of proof. They don't need to defend it and say they don't need to do anything. You've made the accusation. It's up to you to prove it.
Yeah, it's a bit like conspiracy theories, isn't it? You
Yeah.
can almost say anything, and people will say, "Well, is that?" Or if they want to believe it, they'll believe it without any proof whatsoever that it's a fact. And there's no fact that verifies that the system and the people within the system are corrupt. There is no fact. There are plenty of facts that people within the system will distort the truth, and they will talk about their element of the truth, which may vary from your own, which tends to make it look like a lie. But it doesn't mean that they're directly lying. They're just telling their truth.
Well, the truth is truth, no matter who says it. What they're doing is they could be putting their own spin on it.
Yep.
They could be putting their understanding of what something's been said to them, or they've read something, and they interpret what's been said. Not everybody's a brilliant writer. Not everybody's a brilliant speaker. Most people at some time or other, not everybody, but most people at some time or other, when they're arguing something, they'll put in, they use their logical fallacies.
I remember I had, doesn't happen all that much to me now, but there was a time when the Department the Department of Child Protection, that is, they would continually say to me that I'm not interested in kids because I'm representing the parents. Well, I was representing the parents so that the kids could be returned back to them if appropriate. Yeah. And it was like their conspiracy was that I wasn't working for the children. I was working just for the parents, which was not true. But that's what they wanted to believe.
Yeah.
Because that fitted their narrative that I was involved confronting them. So they would have preferred me not to have confronted them in the first place, which would have meant then that I wasn't working for the kids. So, it's convoluted, and this notion around corruption. The fact is that the system is faulty.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. And what makes it faulty are the people within the system. Systems are not systems unless people are involved. Even a computer system is one which is based on people programming stuff into it. So systems do not sit separately or are isolated. They are governed by people. Yeah. And as long as people are setting about meeting their own agendas and setting their own programs, then they will lend themselves to mistakes and to faults. Our job, Avery, is to correct those faults.
Yeah. And to correct those faults, we can't do it by ourselves. Back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. Yep. We need the people that like the page, that like our Facebook page, that agree with what we want to do. We need their help to develop the policy, to join the party and build it in every state and territory, so we can become a real force to if we could get somebody elected into each state parliament and the federal parliament, what could we do with that?
Just imagine for a moment if policy decisions were dependent on our view.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine, I guess, what that would even look like if, someone from another major party comes to you and wants to negotiate, how it is that, and boy, well, we have a lot to say if that's the case, because there'll be certain things around child protection that we'll certainly want to implement in order for us to agree with whatever it is they would like us to agree with. Yeah. I mean, and with that power and authority comes a heck of a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. You wouldn't want to have me elected, because if I got elected, I would say certain things in the Parliament that it would be controversial, shall we say?
Or alternatively, you just might not spend as much time in Parliament as a lot of other people.
Yeah.
You might be turfed out from time to time.
Yeah.
But I guess the point, though, that we're trying to make everybody is that we need your support, and if you don't
Yes.
give us the support, don't complain to us if things don't change.
Yeah.
Because we're the only ones that are doing anything to bring about any effective change. Okay, tell me somebody else who is. You know, there are lots of there are certainly lots of people that, you know, like we think about adoption and Indigenous affairs. There are some people doing some fabulous work. So I'm not disputing the type of work that those people do and the voices they have. And there are a lot of people on the who are academics who are doing some fabulous research. But unless you can take that information to some place which is going to influence those changes through legislation, it just goes nowhere.
Yeah.
You know,
Go on.
Well, it's just like we can create awareness. You know, like at the state election, at the federal election, that when we stood candidate, we got a lot of people who had never thought about child protection before. They just looked at the ticket and they thought, oh, child protection, that's a really interesting idea. Let's give them a vote because we don't like the other guys, you know. But people who want better outcomes for kids, which is most of us.
Yeah.
Most people I speak to, there was a time when we were running candidates for that election, and we had a lot of conversations with people that knew nothing about the Child Protection Party. And to a person, Avery, they thought it was a great idea.
Yeah.
There has never been another party that stood for and gave kids a voice like we do.
Yeah. There's one thing that we, excuse me, that if it did happen, just saying I was going to say just in South Australia, but if you know, how can we get things done if there's the numbers I'm looking for. There's 3.2 million people under the age of 18.
I just want everybody to know that Avery came upon these statistics just the other day.
Yeah.
And this is his opportunity to express them to us all.
Yeah.
Which is great, Avery.
There's 3.207 million people in Australia under the age of 18. If we want to get the politicians that are in Parliament right now to listen to children, let's give those kids the vote.
Yeah. Well,
they'll listen when somebody is going to vote against them.
Well, the reality is that they can't.
Oh,
but
that's males only.
All right. I thought the number looked rather low. But the issue is that we as adults need to be conscious of the needs of kids.
Yeah.
So that they do. And the problem, Avery, the problem is that many of the people that I work with and advocate for don't vote.
Yeah.
How crazy is that in a society like ours where voting is supposedly compulsory, but it's only compulsory if you register? So a stack of people that I work with at the last federal election, I encouraged to enrol.
Yeah.
Because you need a voice. Yeah.
Every time somebody joins the party and says that they are not registered to vote, part of my email response to them is register. You know, if you're not registered, then you've got no say in what's going on in the country.
And you know, it's 30 minutes every couple of years, basically. So you know, it's no big deal, and have a voice, make a difference. You know,
Mirella's just responded to me saying, I think it's to me saying that we should give all those kids the vote. She said, my teens are screaming, yes!
I see that. Go, Mirella. She's exceptional. She's exceptional. So just get involved. That's all we're saying. Yeah. Get involved with us. We can't be more enthusiastic than we are. We're excited about the opportunity that we have to represent you, actually, to fight for clients or people who generally don't have a voice is a privilege.
Yeah.
And it really is to be able to say, like I was with a client today actually this morning, and I reckon he's one of the most misunderstood men I've ever come across from the department's perspective. They're prepared to, hang, draw, and quarter him, and they want to go to a GOM 18 and all that sort of stuff, and the problem is they don't understand who. Like when you arrive at a session and the guy's crying because he hasn't seen his kids for so long because this coronavirus thing, and he's so distressed. You feel powerless yourself, and you're trying to assure him that, look, these are the things that we need to do. They're going to go for a GOM 18, but we need to help them to understand who you are. And why is it? This is where I get really frustrated. Why is it that we, that's me or Nadia or Avery or somebody else or Amy or anyone we've got working with us, why is it that we have to convince other people of whom these people are when we can recognise the great qualities that they have?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
No, I don't get it either.
It's like we have those people that work in child protection, those people that work with us through the foundation, we have a special filter, I guess, a filter that's prepared to acknowledge the value that people have, as opposed to the deficits that they may have carried in the past.
Yeah, I agree. Morella's just posted again. She says, we are the only organisation to not only say you care, but back it up with our actions.
Well, we do the best.
We certainly do. Thank you, Morella.
Yeah. And I think, I was explaining to someone just recently that out of the number of people that we represent, I guess 60 to 65% of them we believe could have their kids under certain conditions for a lot, but believe that the kids could be returned to them relatively safely.
Yeah.
And but the number that we actually can tick off and say we've had returned is small. It's small, and it's for that reason alone. It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. We know it's wrong. And if governments weren't so friggin' risk averse, and social workers were so ill qualified, and their managers were so ignorant, and the supervisors so inept, that the whole system would be different.
Yeah.
And there'd be lots of happy parents and happier kids out there if that was the case.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that a lot of the problems can be put down to exactly what you just said there. That government is risk averse. Another thing that I think as well that contributes to it is that they get elected today, and in a few months' time they're thinking about the next election. They don't think long term. They don't think about the long term future of the country. Well, they're not, short term.
But they're not even thinking about the long-term impact on kids, Avery.
No, that's what I was going to say. They don't think about the long-term impact on the country, and they don't think about the long-term, impact of the decisions they make on children. Which is one of the reasons why we are saying that every policy decision that a government makes should examine the impact it's going to have on kids. I mean, you and I are not going to be around for that much longer, but my grandkids, 4 years old, nearly 5 years old, and 2 years old, they're going to be around for a damn sight longer than I am. And what they've got to say should be heard. The government should be taking into account what they do today. How will it affect those two kids in, say, 20 years' time or 30 years' time?
Yeah, but social workers. Like I was reflecting on one of the first cases I worked on, and how I still been in contact with the mum, and that child is now 13, 14, and just been returned, or a little while back was returned back to the mother. Should never have been taken away.
Yeah.
The mental health problems and the anxiety and stress that this kid has suffered from being in care, in a certain care environment, has been extreme. At the time that this child was taken, the social worker was assuring us that within 3 or 4 months a reunification program would be set in place. Now, 10, 11, 12 years later, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And the kid's suffering from extreme anxiety and stress because she would be much better. The mum got her life together, never really a bad mum in the first place. So, but where's the friggin' social worker that were involved in that? It no longer works for the department, and just as well, because he was a shocker, absolute shocker. And I've worked with other clients of his in the meantime. And they've complained about it. He's been threatening, and he was a terrible, terrible, terrible man. Yeah, the department did nothing about it. Like he was there for well over 10 years.
So he quit. He wasn't fired.
Well, we suspect he might have been fired, but we don't know because the department's not going to tell us. But the point is, how many kids did he impact adversely along the way? Probably hundreds, which is tantamount to saying, a pedophile abused and sexually abused a whole range of kids over the period that they were doing their thing. And here we have a social worker. No one's going to sit back and review all the cases that this guy had worked on over the years. No one's going to do that. But there would have been some really terrible decisions made that impacted those kids for the rest of their lives.
Okay. In a case like that, do you think it would be possible or should be possible to prosecute them?
Well, no, it's not possible because they actually don't break any law. The department is a law unto itself. They're just incompetent. You can't, Jesus Christ, I wish you could, but you can't, you can't discipline somebody for, well, you can't.
Poor decision making.
It's not against the law to be incompetent. But,
No.
but hell, as a social worker, I've had my encounters with the ASW over the years, but I respect that because people do have the right to complain.
Yeah.
And
if people do complain about you, for example, and you learn from that and you improve, then it's got to be a good thing.
Well, a couple of those complaints were because things like I was representing the kids. One of them was I was representing the kids. I wrote a report for the kids that was going to the family court. The father was an abusive man. He objected to that, so he decided to write a complaint about me. And the other one was one of them was a political issue, really, about me being involved in politics. So, but hell, and well, one of them worked out okay. The other one wasn't toe crash hot because I felt unsupported. But that doesn't matter. The point is that each one of us needs to be accountable. And this is why one of the things that we talked about at one point was this registration of social workers because, so they're not legally responsible, Avery. However, they should be responsible to the profession for the way they work. Like I had this, this is like me having a conversation with Avery. It's like no one else is listening. But I had a woman that I had a grievance with because she's just the world's worst social worker. Anyway, when the department got back to me on a complaint I made, they said the manager for this woman. Gee, I hope friggin' social workers are watching this shit because this is about you, right? You're the ones that are stuffing up this system, So, but I'll be fair about this, so I'll just rave for a minute, Avery, if you don't mind. But I had this. I wrote a complaint, and then the social worker, the supervisor of the social worker responded to me and told me because I was a complaint about the way a meeting went with a client who's just fabulous man, and he's just not listened to, and they don't hear him, and he talks and they don't acknowledge what he says, and they bully him, and it's just shocking. So anyway, I wrote a complaint. It turned out that the supervisor of this social worker was in on that very meeting, but didn't. So here I am thinking, well, this is a terrible meeting. There's no social work practice in here whatsoever. But the supervisor was there, and clearly it was okay. So here's the problem. if the supervisor or the manager don't recognise that there's a practice issue, then one cannot be amazed when the social workers, people responsible for people's lives, are making terrible decisions. Because if you're not listening to the client, not interested in them, and you've already judged them, categorised them, placed them in a box, already identified them as a shitty parent, then nothing's going to change, is it?
No,
Do you know?
Nothing at all. It's another. Yeah, I talk about fallacies very often. That's another.
You have recently. This is true. Yeah.
And it's not just on here. I talk about fallacies in other debates that I get involved in. That's another one where they arrive at a conclusion, and then they try to force the facts or find facts to fit the conclusion that they've already arrived at.
Yeah.
Wrong way round. You look at the evidence and you go where the evidence leads you.
But sometimes, in our space, the child protection space particularly, the evidence often is pretty damning. Someone said to me the other day, well, how do you respond when you receive all the documentation from the department in relation to somebody? I said, well, you can look at that stuff and say, well, this is not good. Like there's a lot of drug use, there's domestic violence, whatever. But I said, that's not the point. The point is you look at the person now, because a person has acted badly in the past doesn't mean that they're going to always be acting badly. Like if I think about the way I was in my youth, thank God I got over it at some point, because, I would have been a terrible human being.
Yeah.
When I think about the way I behaved. So, we need to, and people change over time. The reason why we make mistakes is so that we can learn from them.
Yeah. Which is what I meant when I said about you. If somebody made a complaint about you to the ASW, you look at the complaint is recorded, registered, whatever. You're brought up to date with what the complaint was, and you say, "Oh yeah, I was wrong about that, and I need to do this," and you learn and improve. Yeah,
and if you've got a supportive system around you, the people that are enacting the complaint will say, look, these are the things that might be helpful if you do. We suggest that you do them. We'll monitor whether you're doing them, whatever. It's just like social workers who are acting badly should be supervised so that, and they should, the problem is, I reckon the department has an issue acknowledging that people within the department act badly.
Yeah.
There's no way, none of this transparency shit that identifies when someone has said or done something that is unhelpful to a client. And if a client complains, then, it's ignored.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like someone asked me the other day about how many times we've done, so there's this thing called, it's ARC. What is it? So it's a process whereby you can raise a complaint if your access has been changed within a certain period of time. So I've had lots of clients I've referred to this process, and I don't think one of them has had anything change as a result of the complaint. Not one. All complaints were valid. They've changed the access from fortnightly for an hour or 2 hours to once a month.
Yeah.
Oh, how is that in the best interest of the kid? But these people making the decisions, upholding the decisions made by the department, are not that as independent as people may think, or otherwise would have more people. So if there's anybody from, I'm trying to remember the name of it, someone will probably post it to let me know.
Yeah.
But people are not making decisions that support the parent's complaint. Yeah. That's my point.
Yeah. There's only really a few minutes to go. We've been going for nearly an hour, 50 minutes now.
Have we really? My God. Have, yeah. And this is something that you and I at the beginning of this said we don't know what in the hell we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Here we go.
There's a couple of things I'd like to raise.
Yep.
I was asked today if the party has a position on the legalization of cannabis. Right? I know some people will say an absolute no to any legalization. They might say yes to legalization of cannabis for medical use. but no to general use. Just rolling a joint and smoking it. Or they might say yeah to all of it. I just wonder what the opinions are of the people that follow us on Facebook.
So you'd like people to post what they think, and
yeah, they can post it here. They could send me. They could email me.
Is it something? Do you think it's something, Avery, we need to have a policy?
I think
you don't have to policy on everything. You know that, don't you?
No, it can just be a policy position. That a party would be. A party has got a policy advocating for the legalization of medicinal cannabis.
Well, why not?
We don't need to have a policy on that, but we can have a position to say yes, we support it.
Why not just legalise cannabis? Period.
Or legalise cannabis. Period. Yeah, which is what I'd go for.
Yeah, and I have the same personal opinion, but again, as a political party, is this something that the majority would favour?
Well, that's why I was saying we've been asked if we have a policy or a policy position, right? And it would be, I think, useful to hear from the public that follow us on Facebook to tell us what they think. Because
the most backward country on this planet, namely the United States, they have a number of states that are.
I think it's about 16 of them now.
Yeah,
in some it's only medicinal cannabis. In a bunch of others, it's all cannabis products. You got the Netherlands; it's completely legal. You can go into a cafe and have a coffee in a joint.
I was this time last year. I was actually in the Netherlands, and please don't criticise me for travelling to the Netherlands as somebody did last week. I'm entitled to take one trip overseas in 60 years. For Christ's sake, let me have a break. But. But yeah, you're right. On every street corner, I've got some photographs actually of these shops that are full of, like, just standing outside got you high. You know?
Yeah. So, I lived in the Netherlands for nearly 3 years. It's a fantastic country. I love it. And,
I agree. I want to live it. I'd live in Amsterdam if I had a choice of any country. Not that I've been to every capital of the world, but I'd choose Amsterdam. Fabulous place.
Yeah. I was window shopping in Amsterdam quite a few years ago, in the early 1970s, and I fell in the canal because I wasn't watching what I was doing.
You weren't high at the time, were you, eh?
Oh no, I wasn't high, but I was just window. There's a certain district in Amsterdam which is very well known, and I just happened to be walking down that. Looking at the goods in the windows, and my track sort of went this way, and the next thing I knew, I was in the water.
It's quite a fall, though, isn't it? From
about 12 or 14 feet, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It would have. Wow. And did someone pull you out, or did you just?
Fortunately, I wasn't that far from a jetty.
All right.
And, I just swam up to the jetty and climbed up the steps that.
And were people standing around laughing at you, or what?
Of course.
I figured tourists looking at it. It's amazing where they come from. Lovely place though.
Yeah,
and Peter just said, Peter Moore had just said, been listening while working on another project. Just thought I'd let you know. Thanks, Peter, because we have been talking about you. So it's just as well that I'm glad you've been listening.
Yeah.
So and looking forward to Peter. Has Peter responded around that thing you set off?
He was going to let me know in a couple of days' time.
All right. Okay, so we won't talk about that now because Peter's online. There was one final thing. We've got to finish off though, but there's this fabulous article on sbs.com.au. So it was on because it was NITV. So it was an Aboriginal television station.
Yeah.
Which I think is fabulous. And it was about what Mother's Day meant to this particular woman whose mother was from the stolen generation. And I think when I gave the live feed on Mother's Day, which wasn't very long, I think there was much more, Avery, I wanted to say about Mother's Day, but but didn't. But when you look at some of these people's stories about Mother's Day, I'll bring it up here if I can. I don't know if I can because I haven't set the page up correctly. But when one thinks about these, what what Mother's Day, not the day itself, but what mothers mean to a lot of these people who didn't have their mothers or who were taken from their biological families, and the significance that being a mother or being a parent has for some of these people is amazing, and is something that I would struggle to understand, because I didn't directly have that experience. I actually went to boarding school for 5 years, so but I was without my parents for a while. My choice, I hasten to add, not theirs. But it's hard to understand what it is like for people who have been forcibly removed, and for them to identify as parents, and what being a parent means to those people, given their circumstances.
Yeah. I was very fortunate in that I had loving and wonderful, nurturing parents. Unfortunately, my mother died in 1964, just a short while after my 13th birthday, and I obviously missed out on growing up with her and her seeing me get married and have kids and stuff like that. But my father married again a couple of years later, and she's a wonderful woman. She's been in my life since 1966. Wonderful woman.
Yeah, and it's him. I guess my point is that our experiences doesn't necessarily mean that's everybody else's either.
No, absolutely not.
And that we need to, and this is why I get so annoyed, because we need to listen to what people's experiences are, because it explains whom they are.
Yeah.
And sometimes we miss out on very important information when
definitely.
we're not listening.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to end on that note. So, thanks, Avery, for the discussion today. Oh, the other thing too, just finally, we've got a very short video that we're trying to release at the moment. I don't know where we're at with regard to that. We've had a few alterations to it. When it does pop up, so it's developed and written by us, and when that does pop up, just could everybody share that as well.
Yeah. One last thing from me. The live feed Thursday 2 p.m. There'll be a link where you can click on it and join in with us and join the conversation. Face on screen if you want it, or not your face on screen if that's how you want it, and you can talk directly to us about any issue apart from your own personal issue. We don't want to be discussing that live.
Yeah, and happy to have those discussions offline.
Yeah.
But to air all that stuff is fraught with danger online. So just be careful of that. And Avery will mute you if you do.
I certainly will.
He's into power and control. So
I'm a despot.
We could carry that further, but we won't. So instead, we'll say goodbye to everybody, and we look forward to catching up with you on Thursday.
Goodbye,
Catch you, everybody. See them.
Stand with us against unacceptable practices in child protection. We are releasing a video with in-depth research and evaluation of this practice, as well as a discussion video. So please subscribe, hit the bell, and visit our website to see how you can get more involved. Stand with us against unacceptable practices in child protection. We are releasing a video with in-depth research and evaluation of this practice, as well as a discussion video. So please subscribe, hit the bell, and visit our website to see how you can get more involved. Stand with us against unacceptable practices in child protection. We are releasing a video with